nice.
Hey YouTubers, Grimmy Dragon here, and with 2015 behind us, it's time to kick off the new year with a new review. And for our first review of 2016, we're going to be taking a look at Battlecore Optimus Prime. Okay, so Battlecore Optimus is, all intents and purposes, a white Prime. Actually, it's quite literally a white Prime. Rather than going with an Ultra Magnus, which they already made a leader class version of, they just decided, hey, this is going to be Optimus, but he's going to be white and gray for a special battle mode, because reasons. Reasons being they wanted a new Optimus figure to go with the 4 Autobots of the Wave 4. And they just didn't want to re-release the Wave 1 Optimus. But in any case, it's a decent figure. Obviously, it's just a straight repaint of the Wave 1 Optimus. So it's got all the strengths and weaknesses, with one improvement. But yeah, the truck mode is the same as the Wave 1 Optimus Prime, except done in this nice white, gold, and gray color scheme, which harkens back to Nova Prime, a villain character of the IDW comics, who was a big part of Dark Cybertron. So I don't know why they didn't call him Nova, but they decided Battlecore Optimus was fine, but whatever. But yeah, rolls pretty well, and I like it. Now for a quick comparison, we're going to bring in Optimus Prime here, just to get a good look at how they compare to each other. Obviously, exact same mold, just different paint or plastic colors. But even with that, the color placement is pretty much identical. And with the exception of exchanging window paint for a stripe, and they're pretty close to each other as far as the paint details go. Different colors paint used, but ultimately they're pretty close. Another difference is that Optimus has an Autobot symbol on the top, while Battlecore version does not. Other than that, it's kind of hard to find a difference. So yeah, that's how it goes, but still, it's a good mold. I don't mind having another one of it. But there are some others to compare him with, which of course are the vehicles he's meant to combine with. Ironhide, Mirage, Prowl, Sunstreaker, and Rodimus. Now, Battlecore Optimus does look pretty good with the 4 Deluxes, although Rodimus kind of looks like a Power Wheels vehicle next to the others. That's Rodimus, so that's a Legends, whatever. But Battlecore Optimus does go pretty well with them. Not quite as well as the regular Optimus, but he can still work with it. Although I'm really tempted to just keep calling him Nova because it really does remind me of Nova Prime. That'll probably come up a little bit more in robot mode. Or maybe not. Well, he does give a Nova vibe. He looks more like Optimus trying to mimic Nova's paint job rather than be a Nova Prime himself. I mean, he's close. I think that it could have been done with a few more paint apps, especially in the horns, if they were done up in gray. He does get a new head sculpt, which is pretty nice. Has that nice little crest on there. But I think having these horns in the gunmetal and giving him red eyes would have really sold a Nova look to him. Still, he looks good. And since this is being sold as Battle Core Optimus Prime, it really doesn't have to look like Nova at all if it doesn't want to. Now, being an Optimus repaint, he does have all the same articulation. Ball jointed head, although it's more just left and right rather than up and down. You got universal joints at the shoulders, like forward, back, in and out, which the in and out are ratcheted. Nice and clicky. You got a bicep swivel. 90-degree at the elbow. You have a waist. Universal ratcheted hips, which they did actually fix so he can get that nice little A stance and have his feet flat on the ground, which is a big improvement and actually helps combine mode as well, but we'll get into that later. You also got a swivel right above the knee, a little bit more than 90 degrees at the knee bend, and a little movement at the toes. No wrists, but that's okay. It works fine. And all in all, he's a pretty poseable figure. And with that bulk, he's a really good Prime. So I think this mold was pretty good for Optimus, whatever the paint job may be. But for accessories, he does have the same weapons as the regular release of Optimus. The guns are the same ones, although now they are all gunmetal instead of having red handles, which makes them easy to tell apart from the regular Optimus version. And of course you can combine them for combine mode if you want, or just have him have a longer rifle. But they fit in his hands just fine. Nice long pegs, make it easy for him to hold, and it works out real nice. So there is that. Bringing in the first wave of Optimus, you can see the similarities and differences between them. Obviously, my Optimus has the non-F hip joints in there, so he has the proper A stance as well, but without those hip joints, it would have been kind of hard to get him to stand right. You'd either be too close to each other or too far, so yeah. Upgrades aside, they are pretty good, and see if we can get a close-up with both heads, at least close enough to where you can see the differences. That head crest is pretty obvious, but Battle Core Optimus does have a bit more of a squared head as opposed to the more rounder version of the first wave Optimus Prime. But other than that, the differences are just in the paint job. Now, as far as aesthetic goes, I do prefer the first wave version for my Optimus Prime. Although I'm seriously considering getting the Ripper label set to make this guy a Nova Prime. And maybe, if it's possible, the Beelzebub's upgrade kit to make him a little bit more Nova-like. But that's way off in the future, so we'll see what happens. Now, once again, Optimus pretty much goes well with the figures he's meant to go with. Although I still feel that the red version goes better. It's just my preference. Still, if you want to go with the wave as it was meant to be, Battle Core Optimus works fine. Especially considering that the white may be a result of Prowl getting in Optimus's head, trying to convince him of how Prowl sees the world, much like in the comics. Then it makes a little more sense. Still, it's a nice look, and if you skipped out on the Wave 1 Optimus, this is a good way to get the group together and get another combiner going. Speaking of, combined form is actually pretty good looking. Getting all 6 Autobots together does create a nice effect. And yeah, we're using the same configuration I did for Ultra Prime, but this time he's called Optimus Maximus, which is the name that was used in the comic books. And yeah, I'm going to be referencing the IDW Combiner Wars comics a lot here, because they did a good job. But in any case, head sculpt's the exact same as Ultra Prime's, just painted white with the gray little flaps on the side. This actually looks more like Nova than the basic head, so I like it. Works pretty good. And as you can see, Rodimus is the chest plate, and he falls off easy enough, but nice molded detail on the inside. Now, all in all, the connections are just as good as with Ultra Prime, but there is a significant improvement in the hips. As you can see, he's actually standing up pretty straight, which Ultra Prime and Menasor could not do with the default hip joints. You'd have to get like separate hip joints from Non-F, or get the later releases of Motormaster to get Menasor to actually stand like this. Still, Ultra Prime looks, not Ultra Prime, Optimus Maximus looks pretty good. And if you don't want to use Rodimus, you can always close up the chest to reveal some really nice deco, similar to the front of the truck mode. You got a nice mix of like a turquoise silver, if I can get it to show, which it doesn't want to play ball with me, sorry. The light's not playing nice. But you also got that nice gold paint on the bottom of the chest and in the pelt, like in the codpiece. So the color goes pretty nicely for him. Now, Prowl's going to be a little bit of a tricky one to work in this form, because, white on white, it's kind of blending in a little bit more than the rest of the guys. Of course, you could say the same about Ironhide. So, kind of lose my argument. Yeah, since Ironhide is red and First Wave Optimus is red, they blend together just as much. Still can't. For articulation, this version of Prime is actually pretty good. You got a ball jointed head, so you got plenty of movement there. It's also on a hinge, so you can adjust it as you need to match your preferences. The little things here are on joints, so you can actually move them around as you please. Shoulders are ratcheted forward, back, in and out. And since this is the Prime mold, those connections hold together very well. Bicep swivel, double jointed elbow, wrist is pretty good. This one actually has a waist joint, an advantage over Defensor and Superion. One of the very few, I will admit, but he does have one. You also have forward, backward, in and out on the hips, all ratcheted. Careful with that because it can knock the panel loose. You also have 90-degree bend at the knee, rotation right below the knee, but no thigh swivel, unfortunately. Still, you can work very well. Now obviously the feet probably aren't best for dynamic posing, although you can make adjustments to help stabilize him if you want to get him in a more forward moving pose. Like so. Which can look very good on a shelf. Still can't deny that this is a pretty cool set. And for a quick size comparison, we'll bring in first wave Optimus to see that, yeah, those 4 limbs do make him grow quite a bit. So, yeah. This is a big guy. I do like the figure. I'm happy to have him. But I wouldn't say he's the most necessary. But, yeah, he's good, at least. So all in all, I'd say Battlecore Optimus Prime is a worthy grab, especially if you missed out on the first wave Optimus Prime. It's a solid figure. The combined mode works pretty well, and they did improve the hip joints. Still not as good as the non-F hip replacements, but a nice standalone hip joint. But in any case, I do hope you enjoyed that little review. Please do like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps out the channel and makes it a little easier to watch some videos, right? And in any case, next time we meet, we're going to be taking a look at what works best for 2015, you know, basically my favorite acquisitions of the year. It may take a little longer than a week, I'm not sure yet. I'm going to get started as soon as I can. But until then, Happy New Year out there, whatever you are.